Hi guys, happy Friday. We made it through another week. Here we are once again, and I'm hoping that everyone remembered that we changed the time for these Facebook Lives to noon Eastern instead of 1 p.m. Eastern. So I was almost a little bit late because I'm fighting with this glare. I don't know what the deal is. I can turn this on, the camera on, and it'd be in the exact same position, and the lights are in the exact same position as they were, weird, last night. And I didn't have a glare, but this morning I have a glare. I don't know. I need some lighting person in my life to come and help me with my lighting woes. It is seriously an issue. Hey Joan, hey Susie. How is everyone? How was everybody's week? Waiting for an answer. I'm just kidding. So anyway, my week was really good. Actually, I was very, very productive this week. I got a lot of great things done and I have a lot of things on my plate coming up. So many new changes and things going on for you guys. Next week, you're going to start to notice some extra little things here and there. I'm going to be very, very busy, but I'm glad. I like to be busy. I cannot stand to be idle. I'm one of those people. Had kind of a rough start this morning, though. I don't know what's up with that. You guys have I know people have major health issues, right? I'm not talking about major health issues. I'm talking about those really random, just weird things that are wrong with you, and you question yourself. You're like, why? Why am I like this? Why do these weird things happen to me? Maybe I'm the only one, but I have the most random health things that are wrong with me that seem to affect me in the most inconvenient times ever, like this morning. So it's not anything serious. It's just really, why does my body hate me? So that's how my morning has started, and now I'm fighting this glare in here, and it just seems I don't know. I hope the day gets better. So you guys know that last week on Friday, I had to cancel speaking of health things, I had to cancel last week's Facebook Live because I had a terrible migraine, you guys. And that's not a weird health thing. Lots of people have migraines. And when mine come on, there is no stopping it. And it actually lasted through most of the weekend. It was pretty awful, but I apologize for not being here. It wasn't anything serious. It was just a migraine headache, which for those of you who have migraines, you know how gross and yucky those can be. But I'm back and up to snuff today, I guess. So to make up for missing last week, I have a project that is very, very similar. And honestly, it's pretty much the exact same project. I just changed the beads for this because we're using beads from the February Magical Mystery Bead Box from Jessie James Beads. And last week, I had planned to use the Into the Mystic strands. Both of those things are still available, you guys. So don't think that just because I'm not using those beads that those beads are no longer available, because they are still very much available for you guys to get over on the Jessie James Beads website. So on that note, just a little information for you guys. 10% off everything on JessieJamesBeads.com today. That is, well, not just today. It's for the weekend. This offer ends 3/8. So you've got all weekend, 3/8 at midnight Pacific Standard Time. 10% off of everything. That includes the Magical Mystery Bead Box if you are interested in grabbing one of those. The code to use is Girl Power because it is International Women's Weekend. And so in celebration of women power, girl power, and the great strides that we have made over the past, I feel like we've moved way forward even in just the past 5 years. It's pretty amazing. So in celebration of that, use the code GIRLPOWER to check out and get 10% off of your order over on JessieJamesBeads.com. Speaking of the Magical Mystery Bead Box, because that's what we're using today, the Magical Mystery Bead Box, like I said, is included. And if you guys didn't see yesterday's Facebook Live over on Jessie James the Beads Facebook page, you can watch it in replay where we unboxed the February Magical Mystery Bead Box. I'm not going to do that today since that's already been done. You can definitely go over and watch that if you are interested to see all of the amazing things that were included in the February box. I just have a little bit of it today because we're only using 2 beads and a couple of, well, 4 beads. We're using a couple of little things from the box, and I didn't want to like repeat myself with unboxing. So if you want to see that, check that out on the replay. Other than that, this is a pretty straightforward, kind of easy project. The reason that we're doing this project is because I get asked about this all the time. If you saw the teaser picture, it's herringbone wire wrapping, which we've actually done before. But when we talk about it in like past tense, a lot of people will say, oh, I missed that project. Can you do that again? Can you do the herringbone wire wrap again? Can you do it with just the straightforward without anything crazy? Because sometimes I do it and I add extra things to it. It's one of my very favorite wire working techniques. And so I'm very happy to show it to you guys because it looks so absolutely beautiful. It looks very complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it is relatively easy to do. So we're going to do not just 1, but 2 earrings. We're going to do both of them so that we have the opportunity to do the herringbone wire wrap twice. So if you want to watch this in replay, save this and come back to it later, you can see it more than one time. I feel like it's a good way to get some practice in and to kind of talk through it. So that's what we're going to do today. Helen says, hi Sarah, I watch your videos all the time, but this is my first time catching you live. I live in Scotland. Wow, thank you for coming. Thanks for watching. How is it in Scotland? Like, what's the weather like? We are trying to shake off winter here, but it just keeps coming in, and it's like, and another thing, let me tell you, like today it's snowing. It's supposed to be 70 next week. I don't know. The weather is crazy here. All right, Angie says it's one of the few things I can do with wire, right? I love herringbone wire wrap, and what's really cool about it, this is like my go-to when I need something that looks complicated just to fool everybody else who doesn't make jewelry, right? Because it's like an inside secret. Like, herringbone wire wrap is not hard. Once you figure it out and you get the hang of it, you're good to go, and you'll do it to everything, right? But for people who do not know how to make jewelry, they look at it and they're like, oh my gosh, that looks so complicated. And you think to yourself, it's not, it's so easy. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to practice that, and yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Down on the mat we go, guys. And I'm going to turn on some of these lights, brighten everybody up a bit. Okay, so, Kathy, yes, Carson City, Nevada. And Robin is in Tempe, and it is 86 degrees. Wow, you guys. It's like spitting snow today. I'm kind of over it. I am a cold weather person by nature. I love cold weather, but I'm over this winter. It's just been so wet. I'm ready for some warm weather. All right, so this is the Tucson Adventure Mix. This was just one of the many, many things that is in the Magical Mystery Bead Box for February. If you guys are interested in grabbing this, it's over on the Jessie James Beads website. Not this, but the whole box is over on the Jessie James Beads website, but it is in very limited supply. So if you want it, you're going to need to grab it now because it's not, I would pretty much bet that by the end of the weekend, it's going to be gone, especially with that 10% off for the weekend. So, all right, just a sneak peek at what is in this guy. So all of the colors, this was Farewell Tucson. That was the theme for the box. And everything went together beautifully and really just has this desert inspired beauty to it that nobody but Jessie James Beads can accomplish, right? I mean, they know what they're doing when they're putting together these bead subscriptions and the themes. It's just so well done. So this was just a little sneak peek. I actually pulled out beads for our earrings. We're not using a lot. So these little earrings that are like, they're pentagon shaped on the end. They're long tube beads with that nice flat surface on them. We're gonna wire wrap these. So one for each of the earrings. And then there were also some great tassels in the Magical Mystery Bead Box for February. So we're gonna add those in because they are just absolutely gorgeous. And then we're gonna take the toggle. There were, I think, 3 toggle clasps in the Magical Mystery Bead Box for February, and we're using 2 of the toggle rings as part of our jewelry design. We're actually going to use them upside down. So just to kind of show you guys that you can take your findings and other things and like think outside the box a little bit with these. I mean, this is not too much of a stretch, but I thought that it was just a really pretty kind of way to tie in that antique copper color with the bright copper in the wire that we're going to use. And then last but not least, we're going to use these little tiny rectangle tube beads. These are going to hang right in the middle of our toggle clasp circles, rings, whatever you want to call them. These little guys are going to hang in the center there. So that's kind of the direction that we're going. And like I said, we're going to do both of the earrings because this is going to go by pretty quickly, but I want you guys to really get a feel for the herringbone wire wrap if you've never done it before. So we're going to go kind of slow. So I'm using some 24 gauge wire. I'm using this beautiful copper color, and sometimes I go between 24 gauge and 22 gauge. The 22 gauge makes a little bit chunkier and heavier herringbone wire wrap. So if you're looking for something that is more thin and delicate looking, definitely go with the 24. You can use artistic wire for this. You can use German style wire for this. My preference is the German style wire, but I'm actually using artistic wire today because I'm out of 24 gauge copper in the German style wire. So this is definitely not my first choice, but it's okay because you'll get to see that you can use both of the wires. Either one will work for this. You're going to need about 20 inches of this, and that's probably overkill, but this is definitely one of those techniques where if you run out of wire, you cannot add wire in. There are some places, some designs, some things that you do where that is possible. This is not one of those things. So give yourself more than you need for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start this just like I would any wrapped loop, but we're going to give more wraps than just the standard 3. So I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers and I'm going to come down on that wire a good ways. I want to give myself a little bit of wire. So 3-4 inches, that's where you want to start, okay? And you just want to grab that wire with a pair of chain nose pliers and bend it 90 degrees, just like you would if you were creating just a regular wrapped loop, right? But you've given yourself a huge tail. And we are going to come in with our round nose pliers and grab the wires that is running between the barrel of the pliers, okay? And then we're going to take the wire and go up and over the top barrel of the pliers. We are adjust a light just a little bit. I feel like it needs to brighten up some. We are not moving the tool. We're only moving the wire. So we're going up and over the top barrel of the pliers. And now we're going to roll the pliers out of the way. So it was just this movement here just to get the pliers out of the way so that we can take the wire on over to this side. Okay. Now, when I'm using 24 gauge wire, a lot of times I will double up. Let me show you what I mean. So I'll open up the pliers, drop the wire completely. I will open up the pliers and I will take that tail into the wire and go around a second time, right? Just right next to that first wrap around and just double it up. It looks exactly the same, but it's 2 for the loop instead of just 1. And the only reason that I do that is it really kind of just depends on what I'm going to be hanging from that loop with the 24 gauge wire, right? Because it's not nearly as sturdy as the 22 gauge wire. So if you feel like you're going to hang something heavy from a loop made out of 24 gauge wire, double it before you move on to the wire wrapping part, okay? Just a little extra security there. Okay, so I'm going to switch hands and now I'm going to do the wire wrapping, and instead of the standard 3 wraps that we always do, I'm actually going to do about 8 or 9 wraps. Okay, so there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and they're not perfect. You can actually see in this one, see there's a little gap in there. That's okay. We're going to cover all that up. So if your wire wraps are not the most beautiful, totally okay. You can get away with it in this technique. It's really kind of nice because you're going to hide all of that away and never see any of it. Okay, so I've trimmed off my tail and now I'm going to thread on my bead. And I'm going to bring the bead right down here to the wire wraps. Okay, just like that. Now we need to do a wire wrap on the other side. And we need to be sure that we give ourselves enough space. Let me point with the pliers. We need to give ourselves enough space here to get in 8 or 9 wraps. So you can either lay this down on a ruler and actually measure out the amount between the loop and the bead, right? Just the amount of space where the wraps are, and then come down here and grab the pliers in the same place, right? So that you've got the exact same amount, or you can eyeball it. 9 times out of 10, I will eyeball it, and a lot of times I'm wrong. I'm just being completely honest with you guys. A lot of times I'm wrong. So my trick for eyeballing it is you eyeball it, just kind of look at it and kind of guess. Like, okay, that looks like the same amount of space here and there. But take my word for it, it's a weird thing that happens. Go down just a tiny bit, like shorten up. Whatever you think it is, shorten it up just a tiny, tiny bit, just a smidgen. Okay, because I always overjudge. I don't know why, and you may not have the same problem, but if you're just gonna guess and then go down a little bit, make it shorter. Okay, so same thing, we're just gonna bend the wire 90 degrees and see, I can tell that's probably still a little bit bigger, but it's okay, we're gonna make it work, no problem. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers and go around to create the wire wrap. Because I'm using a really big long piece of wire, I took the pliers completely out, and I'm going to double up again just so that the top loop and the bottom loop match, right? Okay, and now I'm going to do the wire wrapping, and the wire is going to want to move on you. That's okay, you can always straighten it back up once you get the wraps around. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and look, I still have so much room left over. 9, whoops, 9, 10, 11. See, I over measured, and that's okay. It's not, in the end, it's really not going to make that much of a difference, and nobody is going to be able to tell but you. You're going to be the only person who really knows that. But to avoid that, you definitely can go in with a ruler. I just, grabbing a ruler in the middle of this is just something that I never really think about doing. So, all right. Now, we're going to take the wire, okay? We stopped right at the edge of the bead, okay? So we're down to the surface of the bead. And we are going to take that wire, if you'll notice the direction that it's coming. So my wire wraps were going clockwise, okay? We want to keep that going. So the wire is coming from the back across the front of all of the wire wraps, okay? I'm going to take that wire and lay it down. And because this bead is not round, I have a nice edge to bend it down on, right? And then lay it down on the surface of the bead. And when we come down here to the bottom, bend it across the surface of the bottom of the bead as well. And you want to go across the front of your wire wrapping. That's the trick to the herringbone wire wrap. It is always across the front, no matter what, okay? You're always going to the front of the wire wraps, always. If you try to go to the back, you're going to struggle with this and it's never going to turn out, and that is probably the #1 mistake that people make. So coming down here to the wire wraps on the bottom, I'm going across the front of those wire wraps. I'm going to wrap around to the back and back out towards the front, okay? So that's what we've got. Joan says, would the tip of flat nose pliers be a good measurement? Yes. No, it might be a little short, but yeah, that's a pretty good measure. Like if you were to come towards the back part of the flat nose pliers where it gets a little bit wider, depending on how your pliers are made, that would probably be a pretty good measurement. You really only want about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch, and that's kind of the difference here. This one's 1/4 and this one's 1/2. It'll be okay. Okay, so now I'm coming back around to the front, okay, and I'm just going to go down the side of the bead on the other side. So lay down across the flat end of the bead, lay the wire down along the side of the bead, and then when we get up here to the wire wraps, want that wire to go across the front and wrap around back out the other side, okay? So we're going to repeat that process, and the next time we're going to go behind this first wrap, right, that we made. So same thing, I'm going to lay that wire down on the bead. Let me open that up just a little bit, okay. and I want it to go behind that first wire. Okay, coming back up here to where the wire wraps are, guide the wire to the front of all of those wire wraps, wrap around to the back and back out the front. Okay, repeat that again, going down the side of the bead behind the first wire, up here to where the wire wraps are, take the wire to the front, wrap around and back to the front. Okay, that's the pattern, and that's all there is to it. But the number one thing is you're always going to the front of the wire wraps. Okay, you're laying behind the last wire that you laid down, over the top of the last wire wrap. So you don't want to wire wrap on top. You're going to cross the front over the top, right? And then same thing down the side and wrap around. Okay. Now, the reason why the measurements should be the same, I'm just going to keep going and talking because we are going to do this again. The reason why the wraps should be the same on the top and the bottom is because one of them you're going to run out of room. This one here, we're going to run out of room. So some of our wraps will actually cover up our loop. That's okay. But it helps if you've got, you know, if you did what I didn't do and actually measure and are more precise about it so that everything really comes out evenly, right? All right, going down the side, okay, back up here to where the wire wraps are, and now we're actually kind of covering up part of our loop, and we'll do that one more time. That's okay. Down the side, laying it down, and you'll see I'm kind of mushing it down with my finger, okay? I'm holding it down with my thumb to lay it flat, and then wrap around to the front, okay? Let's go one more time to the back, and you can see all those wire wraps, how they're lining up right on the side of the bead. This is going to work for a flat bead. This is going to work for a round bead. It makes absolutely no difference. Okay, wrapping around the top and then back down the side and wrap around again. And we're going to finish here, so I'm going to wrap around one more time just for good measure. Okay. And then we're going to trim off the tail. And you can see I've got a little bit of tail left, so I still have some wire left over. That's fine. Can use that for something else. So you end up with your bead with the herringbone wire wrap on both sides. I apologize if you guys keep hearing that dinging. My computer keeps going off. It's telling me things. Okay, so let's do this one more time because we're going to make both earrings. Let's do this one more time. Let's see if I can get the measurement correct this time. And we'll walk through the herringbone wrap once again, okay? So I'm just going to pull out about 20 inches of the wire, probably a little bit more, okay? And same thing, we're going to come down on the wire about 3 inches, 4 inches for good measure, whatever you feel like you need, okay? And then we are going to bend that wire 90 degrees. Oh, thank you, Kristen. Everybody say hi to Kristen Fagan. This is one of our beading friends. Love her so much, and she's so talented, you guys. Have you seen her paintings? Oh my gosh. Okay, so grabbing that wire with the round nose pliers, and I'm going to go up and over the top barrel of the wire. Okay, I'm going to spin that pair of pliers around, take the wire on around, and I'm going to do it twice just for extra security. Okay, on around. All right, I'm going to switch hands, and we're going to do about 8 or 9 wire wraps. There's 2, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So just a little personal note here as I'm going to trim off. If I can find my cutter tool, I have no idea what happened to it. How does it disappear in the middle of this? So just a kind of side note for everybody. So Kristen is a designer for Soft Flex, you guys, an amazing jewelry designer and an amazing artist, just like I said. And I'm a jewelry designer for Bead, which, you guys, I think a lot of people think that that makes us enemies, and it totally does not make us enemies. Like, I love everybody. And I get along with absolutely everybody. I could get along with a rock, to be completely honest with you, but I'm one of the people who I feel like there is room for everybody in the industry and lifting each other up and supporting each other. I don't care what brand you work for, right? I love everybody. So just in case you guys were wondering, like, how did she end up being friends with Kristen Fagan? That's how, because I love everybody. Okay, so I trimmed off the tail for this, okay? And now we're ready to thread on our bead. And you guys, I'm actually going to measure, or I'm going to attempt to measure so that I look like an actual professional, not just one in, you know, not just a pretend one. Okay, so let me bring in my crazy ruler here. Hi, Randy. We are making herringbone wire wrapped earrings. And we've already done one, but we are going to do a second one just for good measure. So that's even less than 1/4 of an inch. That's like just a smidgen under 1/4 of an inch. So, oh golly. Okay. What you guys get out of me is oh golly. Yeah, that's, if I was alone, those words would be a little bit more colorful, I'm sure. This is why I don't like to measure. So let me hold everything here to right there. Okay, that's about as exact as I'm gonna get it. And yeah, so, and you can see that's a tiny little amount. It does not look like nearly enough room for 9 wire wraps, but we're gonna trust the ruler because clearly I am no good at judging. And we're gonna bend that wire 90 degrees. Still looks like a lot of room to me, but that's all right. That's all right. Okay, round nose pliers coming in. And I'm gonna double it just like I did down here. So I'm gonna go up and over the top barrel of the pliers and move the pliers out of the way, bring it around once, and then I'm gonna do it a second time. And I totally did this crazy for some reason. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. We're going the wrong direction. That's okay. All right, so flipping it over here to the other side, and we're going to do the wire wrapping. 1, 2, and again, they don't have to be pretty because we're going to cover them up, okay? We're going to cover them up. Doesn't make any difference. In fact, I'm not even going to count. So you guys don't know how off I was even with a ruler. All right. Okay, so this one we're actually going the other direction. That's okay, because it works either way, just so you are clear. Keep bending that wire. So what I mean is that we're going to start on this side instead of this side, okay? And it's going to work exactly the same way. The technique is exactly the same. So the wire is coming from the back of the wire wraps across the front, right? So we want to take the wire and guide it down the surface of the bead. And if you've got little kinks in it, your herringbone will look a lot better if you'll come in with your nylon jaw pliers and kind of straighten it out as much as you can. That'll just help it to look more uniform, okay? So guide the wire down the side of the bead. Doesn't matter what shape your bead is, it's going to work for everything, okay? And then bring the wire to the front of the wire wraps that are down here on the other end. Okay, so we're going in front of. See how that wire is laying. Now we're going to wrap around to the back and back out the front, but on the other side. I think it might help for you guys to see it coming down on it like that. You see? Okay, so we're going from the back to the front, across the front of the wire wraps, coming down the surface of the bead. Lay that wire down, smooth it down with your finger, okay? Coming down to the wire wraps on the other end, going in front of. okay? Wrapping around to the back and back out the front, okay? You can see my wire keeps getting bent. That's okay. Okay, same thing. Going behind the first wire that you laid down. Okay, always go behind. Come down to the wire wraps, going in front of, wrapping around, out to the front, going down the side of the bead behind the first wraps that we did, to the front of all of the wire wraps here, wrap around and back out the front. Okay, so that's it. That's all there is to it. But you always want to go to the front. Okay, you're going behind the wraps on the side of the bead, but to the front of the wraps on either end. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Going behind the wraps on the side, everything's lining up nice and neat. Smooth it down with your fingers if you want to. Okay, to the front of these wire wraps, back out the front, down the side again, around, down the side, behind all of the other ones, and around. And you guys can see, even though I used a ruler, the measurement was still off just a tiny, tiny bit. That's okay. Nobody is going to notice. In the end, when you put everything together, it all just kind of disappears and it just becomes this beautiful thing. It's not really about that little measurement, right? Nobody is ever going to notice that part. All right, so let's see. I think I've got room for one more. So I'm going to go down the side. You can see how pretty that is on the side, as well as up here. You've got that herringbone look, right? Then you have this pretty wire wrapping going down the side, around, coming down the side. And actually, I think next week I'm going to do the herringbone wire wrap again, but we're going to do something a little different with it. So I want you guys to practice this one, okay? So there is that one. He's all ready to go. We're going to trim off the tail. Practice this one. Post your pictures. Let me see how you guys are doing with the herringbone wire wrapping. And then let's take this one step further next week. Let's do something a little bit differently with it. And hopefully I will inspire you to herringbone wire wrap everything, because that's kind of the way I feel about it. I want to herringbone wire wrap everything I get close to. So Kristen wants to know, what gauge wire are you using? I'm using 24 gauge wire for this, but it is totally up to you. 22 gauge wire looks pretty good too. The only difference is that it makes it a little bit more bulky and you get less of the wire wraps. So either one is going to work. I've used it with 20 gauge wire, but only on like really large beads. So it definitely kind of depends on what the size of the bead is and then how much of the herringbone you want. The bigger the wire, obviously, the less wraps you're going to get. So, all right, so we have our two little herringbone wire wrapped sections ready to go. Okay, one for each earring. And we are going to add these guys to the bottom. And before we add these, we're going to take these two little rectangle beads. And so Ramona wants to know, do you have to use certain types of beads? Absolutely not. In fact, I encourage you to try this technique on all shapes, because it's going to look differently. It's going to feel differently. A round bead is going to be different than a square bead. It's going to be different than a triangle bead. And all of the results are so unique and so beautiful. So try it on everything. It's so fun. And once you get the hang of it, you really want to try it out on everything. All right, so I'm going to take a head pin, and I'm using a fancy head pin, but you don't have to. Just a standard head pin in copper will work. I'm going to thread on our little rectangle bead. So this guy is just a little tiny guy. We're not going to do a wire wrapped loop here. We're just going to do a regular simple loop. So I'm just going to bend that wire with no spacing, okay? And then I'm going to come in with my cutter tool, and I'm going to trim off. Make sure that you've got enough wire to create a loop with. Okay, so give yourself about 1/4 of an inch of wire, 1/2 of an inch if you like to make big loops. Trim that off, and then you're going to come in with your round nose pliers and you're going to grab that wire. I always hold it so that the wire is away from me, and then roll back towards myself and back towards the bead, right? And I don't do it in one smooth motion. I do it in kind of a rocking motion. That's the only way I can get a pretty good looking loop. I'm not real comfortable with just regular loops. Wrapped loops are my thing. So these always end up not looking so great, in my opinion. They're just a little bit harder for me to do. I don't know why. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other one because we need one for the other earring as well. And let's see. Just going to grab it, bend it, okay, and then we're going to come in with our cutter tool, trim off. So we've got a little bit of wire. I'm holding it away from me, coming in with the round nose pliers, and just going to roll backwards, back towards myself and back towards the bead. So it's not really backwards, but it is from that direction. You see what I mean. And you just want to be sure that you get your loop closed. You don't want to leave any openings there, okay? So we've got those two guys. They're ready to go. And we've got some tassels that we're going to put on the bottoms here. And we're really just going to connect everything with some jump rings, and that's it. So let's do that real quick, put these together, and then I will put these on so you guys can see them, because I really love these. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up one of the ear wires, and I'm just going to thread that on to one of the loops on the top. It's usually the last step, but for whatever reason, that's going to be the first step today. We're going to do that to both of them. Okay. So that's ready to go. And the next thing we want to do is we want to open up a jump ring. And I'm opening it up pretty wide, okay? We're going to thread on the loop portion of our toggle clasp, and I'm leaving the loop down here on the bottom. So I'm actually going to thread through right up here at the top. So I'm threading the whole thing, right? And before I close the jump ring, I want to thread it onto the loop on the bottom of our herringbone wrapped bead. And last but not least, before I close this up, if I could get a hold of it, I'm going to thread on one of our little dangles, okay? So that's going to kind of hang towards the center of our loop. So we've got that, just like that, okay? Let's do the same thing over here on the other one. So I'm just going to open up the jump ring, open it up pretty wide, thread on the ring here, thread it onto the herringbone wrap, switch hands with the pliers and thread on our little rectangle bead and close that back. And now we don't need another jump ring because our little tassels here. Hey Julie, that's okay. You can always watch us in replay. I'm glad you're here though. You guys, Julie Peterson, I got to meet Julie Peterson in Tucson. She came and took classes with me and Sarah James and Meredith Roddy, and such a sweetheart and such a good jewelry designer, you guys. She's got tons of inspiration. All right, so the tassels that we're using, they have a simple loop on the top of them. So instead of using a jump ring, I'm just going to take advantage of that loop and just walk that open and go ahead and thread that straight on and close that back. And this earring is complete. How fun is that? I really, really love these. I don't know what it is. I'm a real big fan of copper. I don't wear nearly enough of it. I love it. It looks really good with my hair. So I probably should wear more of it. But I love to take, you know, findings, other things, clasps, whatever, and turn them into something else, right? Instead of just using them in the standard way. I like to use them in kind of a different, fun way. And I thought that was just the beautiful use for those toggle clasps. And because there were 3 in the Magical Mystery Bead Box for February, I still have one more so I can add it to a piece of jewelry that's going to match my newly made earrings. So there you go. All right, I'm going to turn you guys around. We're going to try these earrings on, and then I will let you guys go for the day so that you can enjoy the rest of your Friday. Let me turn these lights out and turn you guys back around. Hi. So, hi everybody. Suzanne, that's okay. You can watch the replay. We made some fun earrings today. Oh gosh, you guys are... All right, so check these out. Well, look at my dry... My skin is really cracked and dry. Oh yeah, let me call it out so you really pay attention to it. So these are the earrings. I think they're just so romantic looking, right? It's that desert feel, but it's still just really, I don't know, there's something romantic and fun about these. Yes, Joan says it looks like they're antique style. Yeah, they're kind of Victorian looking. I think they are really, really fun and just a really cool use for those toggle rings. I love that. I think those are cool. So I'm going to wear these today. All right. Thank you, everybody. Desert Romance. That's right, Kathy. Desert Romance. They are for sure just really fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed that herringbone wire wrapping technique. I hope that I explained it in a way that was easy for you to follow. Feel free to watch that replay a few times. And actually, I think over on my YouTube channel, which I neglect quite a bit, I'm so sorry if you're subscribed to me. I have a tendency to neglect that channel so badly. But I think that I have another project over there that is the herringbone wire wrap, where you can watch it with a different kind of bead if you want to. So practice it, post your pictures. Let's see what you guys are doing, how you're doing with it, how you feel about it, if you want to see something else with it. Because I think that it would be cool to take this to another level where you do the herringbone wire wrap on a flat surface. That's a cool trick, and the results can end up being really, really beautiful. Again, it's easy, but the results are like showstopper results. So let me know how you feel about that, if that's something that you want to work on. And I will definitely do that for you guys. So, all right, you guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday. I am headed right out the door. I've got some errands that I have to run. They cannot wait any longer, so I've got to go do that and then come back and finish up my work day. Have a great, great weekend. Take advantage of the 10% off everything on jessiejamesbeads.com in celebration of International Women's Weekend. The coupon code for that is Girl Power, all one word. Use that to get your 10% off. That includes Magical Mystery Bead Boxes. So if you've got your eye on the February Magical Mystery Bead Box, grab it now. Those are going to be sold out by the end of the weekend. I can almost guarantee it. All right, so have a great weekend. I will see you guys again next week. And you guys pay attention to Facebook next week because, like I hinted at the beginning today, there are more things on the calendar starting next week than just where you guys have been seeing me. So if you're not tired of me by now, by the end of next week, you're going to be like, oh gosh, it's Sarah again. When is this girl going to go away? Lots more Facebook Lives coming at you next week. So keep an eye out for those. Have a great afternoon, great weekend. I'll see you guys. Bye.